You know, she's very, very distraught about this incident and what has happened. The fact that she's taken a human life, but at the same time, she wants the Crutcher family to know that she meant no ill will. You know, this was not something that was done out of hate or anger. She stopped there that day to try and help somebody, and things didn't go the way they should have, and we ended up with an officer-involved shooting. She was on her way to a domestic disturbance call. As she heads westbound, leaving the police station there on 36th Street North, she's going westbound, coming up to Lewis, and there's a car in front of her.
Yeah.
And when that car moves over to turn left, she sees somebody in the middle of her travel lane, in the westbound travel lane, looking down at the ground. She pulls closer. That individual notices her, looks, and turns and walks to the north side of the street. You know, had she not been on a call, you know, she would have gotten out and checked that person because it didn't look right. She thought they could be intoxicated somehow. But anyway, she proceeds on after the light changes and drives 150 feet or so and sees this car parked in the middle of the roadway, straddling the yellow line, a traffic obstruction for travel both ways. So she radios in and said, hey, I've got this abandoned car in the road. I'll be out checking on it, gives the tag number, and they get another backer to go to this call that she had previously been assigned to. So she gets out to go check to see if there's anybody in the vehicle or what's going on. It's a little bit odd because she assumed it was disabled or broke down, but as she got closer to it, she realized that the car was running, windows down, and so she cautiously checked from the driver's side, the back seat, and then the front seat, and it was not occupied by anyone. As she turned to go back around, she was going to look over on the passenger side of the SUV. She encounters Mr. Crutcher, who's walking westbound. Thinking that he may be the owner of that vehicle, she engages him and says, hey, is this your car? If it is, come talk to me. He simply drops his head and continues to look at her kind of right under his brow, which she thought was unusual. He then begins to put his hand in his left pocket, and she said, hey, please keep your hands out of your pocket while you're talking to me. Let's deal with this car. Again, no response. When she said, get your hand out of your pocket, he did pull his hand away, but he's the one that put his hands up in the air like that. He was not instructed to do that at that time. She thought that was strange. She continues to try to get him to talk to her, but he won't. He's just staring at her. And by this time, he has left the edge of the roadway and is now at the back left corner of her police vehicle. She's about 10 feet beyond him to the southwest. He turns and then walks to the edge of the roadway again and turns around and looks at her, still has his hands in the air, and then puts them down and starts to go into his pocket again. She tells him, get your hands out of your pocket. Now she's becoming concerned. She believes at this point, because she is a drug recognition expert, that he is on something. She thinks he is acting like he's possibly on PCP. She gets on her radio and says, hold traffic.
Right.
That means nobody else talk until we get this situation resolved. I have a subject here who's not following commands. And you can kind of hear a degree of stress in her voice when she says that. And he goes to his pocket at least one more time. And she's so concerned at this point, she now pulls her gun and has him at gunpoint and is giving him commands to get down on his knees. There's no doubt in her mind that she is going to arrest him for being intoxicated in public and possibly obstructing an investigation. So she orders him, get down on your knees. He doesn't acknowledge that command, doesn't say no, but doesn't do it. Simply raises his hands and then begins walking to the west again along the passenger side of her car. That is about the time the police helicopter picks up this action. As he's kind of angling off towards his car,
Yeah.
she is yelling at him to stop over and over again. But he ignores those commands and goes to the vehicle. Now, as a police officer, you have to wonder, why would somebody ignore commands at gunpoint to get to a certain location? I think that's kind of an obvious answer. One could be that he's going to get in the car and drive away and get away from you. Mm-hmm. But he gets up to that door, he doesn't do that. But instead, we contend, this is what I see when I look at the video, his arms come down, his left hand goes into the interior of the car, and that is when Officer Shelby fired her one shot, and Officer Turnbow, who's just arrived, also deploys his taser.